I have gotten tender duty working on Ansible, and I cannot tell you how proud I am of that. I've spent all day on it and the last few days on it. It's just fantastic.
Hello and welcome to Game of Nodes, a weekly podcast on the Cosmos from independent validator teams. And immediately before, I think we went live with that, Yusef was saying like, without Null here, how is this rugging going to play out today? And then Schultzy just started saying something really wholesome. So it was like, right, press the button. Let's go. Let's do it. So yeah, welcome to Game of Nodes. This is the first episode this is 50, isn't it? Because we missed one. This is although we did 2.5, didn't we? So I think
that's right. We did do 2.5. That's correct. So this is really 51.
This is really 51. So nearly been a year. We've nearly been doing this a year, and this is the first one that Null is not on. He's in the land of the rising sun. He still hasn't worked out how to use the toilet. It's been 2.5 days. He's stuck in there. He sent us a message to the group chat saying,
"What buttons do I push?"
Lads, the toilet's locked me in. It's become self-aware. How do I get out?
Send help. I don't know how to call 911.
Yeah. What's the emergency services number? Yeah, it's Australian abroad. You can't take them anywhere. Sorry, Rama. I've just noticed Rama's in the chat. But yeah. Okay, so we've not got any guests today, so we're just going to cover off some of the things we've been doing in the week. As you've already heard from Schultzy, it's maintenance week. Apparently,
it is maintenance week. That's true.
It's maintenance week.
Well, really, I should be updating my website, and I want to do anything but that.
Me too.
So I've been doing literally everything but that. And what that looks like right now is doing all my monitoring over again for no apparent reason.
So you Ansiblized Tender Duty 2. So you Ansiblized the Docker structure, or what did you Ansiblize?
Oh, yeah. I got everything rolling. So now it'll just input everything for you. So like if you add a new network using Ansible, it'll just fire it up like the new chain config and rerun Docker for you. So just set up and go. It's amazing.
So you're finding the show address key, or you're finding the valcon, right? Oh, actually in Tender Duty 2, it's the valopper, right? So you're finding that, you're pulling that automatically, and you're grabbing the IPs and all that stuff, or what are you doing?
IPs are done automatically, yeah. But it's squinting a little bit for the valopper address right now. Right now, that I'm just entering in manually. Okay. I'll get around to that eventually, but
that's doable. I mean, you could query the node for it and whatever else, right? That's possible.
Yeah.
That's cool. But, I'm still using. Actually, that's not true. I'm not still using. I went back to Tender Duty 1, just really for this issue. And I kind of. Polk and I were talking about this a while ago, and he's like, I just like the simplicity of it and blah, 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 which I kind of agree with. The only issue is just really understanding when that services is not up, because I'm basically running individual services for each chain, and it works really well. Like obviously it communicates and it's very stable. It's just a matter of knowing like when those things are, when the actual, like the Tender Duty service has to be running for it to be accessible, right? So that's the only thing. You do some service monitoring, but that's about it.
I mean, that's the main benefit of Tender Duty version 2, right? Is that if you hear an alarm go off, you check your website real quick. You're like, I'm not missing any blocks. I'm going back to sleep.
Yeah. And I mean, still, I mean, I get the alert and pager duty, so you know which chain is the issue. But if the service is down, yeah, agreed. So now I'm starting to monitoring the service, which is fine. It's just like monitors on top of monitors, layers.
So, I mean, when I said maintenance, I was also actually mainly talking about the mustache, but yes. Like, I'm glad we talked about Tender Duty. That was cool. Is it? Do you find like you're missing fewer blocks with the mustache in its current state?
I think we all know the answer to that is yes. Obviously, the longer it gets, the fewer blocks I miss.
That's true.
It's pretty impressive. So yeah, you heard it here first. Get a mustache on the go. That's going to help your uptime, validators. I was just mourning actually before the show started that I think we're going to unbond our validator on Juno. That is Needlecast, because it's a wee bit of a conflict of interest in some ways now to be running a validator and also be represented on on the Core One group, which is a bit of a shame because, like, you know, Juno is like I guess Stargaze was our OG, but we've been very, very picky. We've actually only done a few chains, so it does like massively reduce our footprint of chains when we're only running like 4 or 5 to be like, well, the biggest one, we're just gonna turn that fucker off. Yeah. So am I still allowed on the podcast? Is that do I have to bail from the pod? Am I no longer a real validator if I drop below like a critical mass of chains?
I think the more important question is, who are you going to stake to with your huge Juno bag?
Who are you going to tell our swath of listeners of who to stake
Wow. It's going to be obviously a pool, a Ponzi. Is that a collective noun of validators? It's going to be a Ponzi of validators.
A Ponzi?
Is that many validators as a Ponzi? That you said?
Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be a circle stake of valid. No, that's the collective noun, isn't it? I'm going to delegate to a circle stake of validators of my choosing. No, but what the thing is, I think actually as well, we also have a delegation from the delegation DAO. Well, no, it would have been pre-delegation DAO, I guess, because obviously we worked on Juno a lot and stuff like that, and I guess that will disappear. So there's a whole bunch of stuff, but obviously as a company we have some funds and stuff, so we'll spread them around. But
Nice.
yeah, I think we will we'll be pulling the like basically some people will know that I'm imminently having a small ban, and therefore a lot of other admin is currently on fire for lack of attention. And one of the things I need to do is actually put together a blog post about joining the Core One group and our plan to undelegate, put a timer on it so people have have an opportunity to, you know, not get rugged by us turning off the validator, etc. And
so in the chat it says Jake is in the DAO validator, which is true. That was a little bit of a separate project, but that's right.
Well, the DAO one's actually run by the DAO, isn't it? Like, as in the validator
True.
is managed by the DAO.
Wolf runs SG1. Jack has Strangelove. So could you? And Romer says you could probably elect to not have foundation delegation, which is true. You could get rid of the foundation, but keep the Val.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like so. Demi and Jake don't, and I think that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think if you want to, I think it's the right moral decision to be able to do that.
I don't think it's a good bit. So this is the thing, like split brain, like you're like, okay, as a business, like we probably should try and keep it running.
Yeah.
However, like we are also like, I am as a representative of Needlecast, also as a business, also sort of. It's weird. This is the thing with blockchains. It's all kind of the company versus individual, especially for validators, right? For all of us, where we also run a small business, it's very muddy. What somebody's saying, hey, can you, individual person, do this thing, or can you, your business, support this thing, right? Of which you are just an avatar for effectively the business.
Yeah.
And then what constitutes a conflict of interest in that case is a bit unclear, and it's Russia clock according to your clock there.
It is 2112. No, I think it's your decision to make. I do think that like taking foundation delegation probably doesn't make any sense, and that I think that would be a conflict of interest. Running a validator, I don't think is a conflict of interest. Like I don't know if anybody's delegating to you because you're on Core One. Like I would think you'd probably lose more delegations for people.
I mean, I think we lost enough delegation during Prop 16 that there's no.
Exactly.
There's no risk of us becoming the people's champion at this point.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to hold it over your head to say, hey, you know, you should not be or you should not be running a Val, because as Null points out, who's actually more talkative not on the show than he is on the show, in our chat, that he's pointing out you be literally the only core version or the only core member not running a validator, which
is that true? I thought Max was joining Core One.
Max is not running a validator. There you go.
So it'd be Max.
Yeah,
there you go.
So okay, a little bit of exception.
Yeah, but Max is like the platonic ideal of good morals in the Cosmoverse. So if Max isn't running a validator, then you should seek to be more like Max, I would say.
I think that's right. Yep.
But yeah, we'd still have like a big honking massively overpowered box lying around. So I think we've already moved a lot of those boxes off of AWS and certainly the backup. So
Yeah.
I guess maybe we'd just convert it to an RPC, so at least we have to like follow the progress of mainnet. Would make sense. And we actually need to provision some stuff for HAL anyway, so possibly
So
it'd be the king is dead, long live the HAL RPC.
did someone block Null?
I did.
Or...
Listen, you can't spam the chat for 25 minutes but decide not to show up like that.
It deleted all of his messages.
He'll come back. It's just 5 minutes. It's just 5 minutes.
That's amazing. If it doesn't come back on, that'd be hilarious.
I'm sure he's sitting in a bed somewhere in Japan on his phone, just
fuming,
cursing me out.
So what is your day-to-day going to look like being part of Core 1 now? Because my imagining of what your day-to-day right now is basically wrangling testnet validators and calling us all fools.
Yeah.
So what's going to change? You're still going to call everyone fools, but now it's going to be testnet and mainnet validators?
I basically just changed the group in which I ship posts. That's literally it. No, well, so obviously also because of impending life changes and a variety of other things, like I've been doing less development on the actual binary side of things. I think that's also because I think as discussed before, I don't have a big affinity with the Go programming language and it doesn't spark joy. So I think that's something that I've done because it was necessary rather than because it was enjoyable. Obviously care about Juno, care about the platform, etc. So like the biggest thing that's actually changing is that I'm, I guess, taking on what. So there's some things we want to do with Juno in terms of the structure of the dev team and the way stuff gets done, which hopefully will change over time. And that's more strategic, and that's more maybe going like back to stuff that I've done in more corporate contracting setting or whatever, like starting up dev teams, helping people scale out, that kind of stuff. As opposed to actual dev. So there's like that strategic stuff will change. And then, yeah, I'll probably still be helping out validators and stuff. But again, I've handed over some of that. I've been working with Reese quite a bit, like to hand over some of that just so, because there is a process. And this is, I think, a thing a lot of people don't kind of understand is that not only is there a process in my head, but it's actually written in the Juno repo. There's like a covenant with validators about how we do releases and how we communicate it and that sort of stuff. And just like kind of transferring some of that knowledge over to other people in the team so that when, as imminently is going to be the case, I'm not going to be around for a few weeks other than on pager duty. People know what to do essentially in a way that validators, because we've had it in the past where, because I think validators are quite aware of like roughly what the covenant is. Oh, we'll give you 24 hours for this, and if there's a emergency security upgrade, we'll do this, and if we'll do this and the blah, blah, blah. Like we've had it where things have been communicated in outside of that pattern, and validators have literally then DM'd me or D me or Jake or whoever and said, "Hey, I've been told this, but I actually don't believe it." And then we've had to go, no. It's like, so Dragonberry was an example of, because that happening people heard it from a number of different angles because it affected multiple chains. We had to actually play a bit of like, in some cases, people were like, is this real? Because it's been communicated to us in a different way. And so then we were like, oh, no, it is real, but we're actually going to communicate it slightly differently from how we normally would. So it's all that kind of, a lot of it's like process stuff, honestly. It's not very glamorous, but that's I guess like,
no, but needed, right? I mean, it's going to add, you want to add maturity to the chain and you want to add maturity to the communication and you want to build some processes that are repeatable and like they're like some of the not professionalism, that's not really the right term, but like as time goes on, the maturity needs to go along with that, right? And the processes are like how we act and how we communicate and all those types of things. That's a good benefit to Core 1.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the goal, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Is this one of those cases, I'm imagining the code of, if someone wants to rule, then you probably don't want them to be a ruler. Is this a case where you're kind of like being a martyr by taking the position? Do you want to be in Core 1? Or are you just being voted in? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, so look, I care about Juno. We're very, as a business and individually, we're very very invested in the chain, right? So,
Sure.
but as the old saying goes, better to be in the tent pissing out than outside pissing in, right? So that's the pragmatist view on the situation. I mean, I would be, I think, lying if I said that I didn't have to go away and think about even, in fact, once this kind of was up on Commonwealth and was suggested, go and think about whether or not, because that's the thing, it's kind of like proposed on Commonwealth and you're like, okay, and then at some point before it goes on chain, essentially people come knock on your door and they go, okay, well, it's just because it's on Commonwealth doesn't mean you actually have to do it. And then you have to go, well, actually, yeah, I'm going to sleep on it, because it is still like, it's a bunch of responsibility. And it has, we sort of said, like, potentially, like, because I do feel there's the conflict of interest thing that is there, and like it's going to change how it's potentially going to change, like, whether, okay, it's not impossible that we change our mind and we continue to run a validator, whatever.
Yeah.
But it does, like, there are a bunch of other effects here that you're like, okay, well, what is it you're actually saying yes to, really, is the kind of main thing, right? When there's been something that you kind of expected, you started off volunteering for it, giving some time, and it gradually, like, took over your entire life to being like 7 days a week for like 18 months. You're kind of like, that's no longer sustainable. So what is this work?
Right.
So there's a little bit of that, but yeah, I think martyr would be a bit strong. Like, any responsibility is a responsibility, right? You kind of have to go into it open-eyed, but it's just another thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think, I mean, Juno's better for having you more involved. So
yeah, I mean, I think it's like,
nobody would say anything different than that, right? So I think
I'm not even sure it's more involved, though. I think it's just differently involved.
Fine.
I think there's a bunch of things that have to happen in this bear market for, bluntly, like, Juno to come out stronger on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And because I'm a psychopathic control freak, obviously, I think that I should be in on that conversation. No, that's
Good.
But it is a little bit true. It is a little bit true. Like,
Yeah.
like, if you're somebody who has strong opinions, you're sort of like, okay, well, you've identified the problem. Okay, actually, that's about as far as I've got with that. But
No,
I don't have a solution. I don't have a solution. That's for all of us together to work out, right? But
right. But I think I think you could frame the problem in different ways. I think you could bring outside, like, that group's been together for a year, right? So it's good to have more outside opinions in there, and you can. I know your opinions have been made, but now it's a little bit different, right? You can take action on them, and you can force a little bit. So I think that's good.
Do you have like a 90-day plan ready?
Is it on the website? We have to,
yeah, like 5 year plan. No, but I will say my first act. No, but well, no, but actually, like, one of the first things that we are now doing, that we've opened a discussion upon, is actually having that. Yeah, I think we can say that we've committed to basically coming up with, like, a very clear statement for what we are planning as an outcome as a core team.
We core one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, like, this is the top line outcome, and then like, we each individually have lots of opinions on, like, priorities and all sorts of other things, and like, we're kind of going to essentially, like, workshop around some of those things, like, to try and work out what it. And actually, this was some of this came out of a discussion, like, led by Jake, actually, a friend of the show, as always, which I gather they did some exercises inside of the DAO team, where, again, they also have, like, very, very committed core, what's it called, like, contributors, and then they have, like, a long tail of smaller contributors, and they did some exercises to basically, like, try and align what their objectives were, but with the kind of knowledge that there's a range of energy, I suppose, or commitment levels. And so we kind of, like, yeah, he had some really, really good thoughts, actually, about how all that will thresh out. So that's one of the things we're probably going to do.
Cool.
As much as I hate to bring it up, considering all the corporate talk going on, is there any plan to have any level of, like, KPI reporting, for, like, seeing, like, just maybe just a snapshot of metrics, like, hey, this is the number of addresses that came out or have been in Juno now versus then, just anything like that, like something some sort of
Yeah.
reporting to the community kind of deal. Does that make sense?
I think interestingly, that would be something probably for the communication sub DAO. But I know that it's being thought about because we literally talked about it. Like it's one of the first things we talked about. So like I say, it's really, really early doors in terms of Minor Max's contributions there. We've only just started sort of, I don't know, kicking the tires, putting our feet up on the furniture, whatever the turn of phrase is. But like, so far, I guess, like it's one of those where I think the other thing is the other thing, right? Is like everybody involved is busy. Everybody involved has lots of things that are on and lots of things going on with their lives. And I think the key thing that all of us want to do is like keep up the momentum that the project already has, but also just like not waste our time, not waste anybody's time. Like that's like kind of the mood of the room. I obviously can't speak for what the mood of the room was before we got there because I don't know. So but that's like certainly the conversations we've had, that feels like the energy of the room is like we're just at the stage where we're in a bear market. There's a lot of pots and we need to look at all those pots and decide which ones we're going to shit in and which ones we're going to get off of. And that's basically the way that cookie crumbles, you know.
We're all doing it at the same time, right? That's just,
yeah.
So many pots around here. I don't even know what to shit in.
I also noticed that Null is really angry about the fact he got rugged by you. Yeah. That's amazing. All out the group chat. And you know what, Schultzy, though, back to marketing, right? And okay, Gamer Nodes were rubbish at marketing. Hey, actually, do you know what? Okay, in the chat, there's been an ongoing argument for the last week. I maintain Game of Nodes branded M&Ms with the troll Doge on the M&Ms.
You are like singularly focused on this.
Fucking laser focused on this. Is
laser
great,
fucking focused.
Great.
Back everybody up, get everybody up to speed on how this started, because you found out that there was this.
Okay, so we're talking about promotional merch for ETH Denver. Obviously, I'm not going to be there. Unfortunately, nobody from Needlecast is going to be there. It's a fuck up, right? It's a fuck up. But I'm backseat driving my FOMO into what we should be doing for branded merch, right? And so this is definitely not procrastination from work I should have been doing. 100% not that. But I was looking up lots and lots of different promotional things. My other half goes to me, hey, I'm pretty sure you can get like promotional M&Ms. Looked it up, totally can. You can get them branded, printed with all your own shit. And I was like, we should get Game of Nodes once. That's fucking brilliant. And it got shot down. You
went through that pretty quick. What we're actually talking about is branded bags of M&Ms.
Branded bags of M&Ms or tubes. You can get tubes or gift boxes, little tins.
Is this an M&M?
You can even choose the color of M&Ms that you want within your.
Choose the color of fucking M&Ms. You have gold branded.
It'd have to be brown, right? It'd be shit. Anyway, so
what, Van Halen style brown M&Ms, whole bowl of brown M&Ms.
Yeah, that's right. That's a good call, dude. Because that's right. Eddie wanted that was it. Eddie wanted to pick those out, right? Is that what it was? It was Eddie would not want. He wanted M&Ms in the backstage, but no brown. Like somebody that actually physically.
I thought it was all brown. Was it?
Oh,
no
that's
brown?
a good question. Maybe
I thought it was no brown. That's what
I thought it was no brown too, but it could be. That would be interesting if it was all brown.
Do you know the reason for that?
No. Do you know?
I'm pretty sure it has to do with
what? I was looking for my Van Halen biography book. I was like, can I go get it? And how long would it take me to find it? Go ahead, please.
So, Schultzy, do you know?
Yeah, isn't it true that it's because of shitty stage stuff? If they didn't actually read the contract that said that M&Ms need to be in there, then they'd be like, nah, clearly, like, for our pyrotechnics, I think it's called, like, they're probably not going to have set that up, right?
That's right. It was in the rider. That's right. It was in the rider that they had to either only brown or remove brown. And if those were not met, then they knew that everything else was fucking shady because nobody read the rider.
They could literally break the contract and walk out of the venue.
Good call, Schultzy. That's right. That's exactly what it was.
It's because they were one of the first like stadium touring bands in America, and they were playing a lot of venues that were not set up for like a modern stage show.
That's right.
So it was a means of basically, I think what happened was Lee Roth got electrocuted on stage once, And after that, they were like, right, if they don't get the M&Ms right, they won't have got the stage wiring
That's
right.
exactly what
So
it
we
was.
walk out.
That's right. I think, yeah, that's
Schultz's
a
Van
principle.
Halen facts.
That's right. I got to find my thing.
I got a lot of weird things like that. Dow, dow, dow.
Did somebody say dow, dow, dow 3 times?
Wait,
Somebody said Dow 3
Oh,
times.
oh my God.
shit.
Yo, guys, what's up?
It fucking works. How the hell did that happen?
You know how to summon me. You just say Dow 3 times.
It's
and then I
fucking
show up.
crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. How are you
What's
guys
up?
doing?
Good, man. That
Just
jo-
talking
that
about Van
Juno's hoodie
Halen.
looking tight.
Van Halen? Yeah, okay. Great. Classic Game of Nodes content. I love it.
Yep.
Jake's more of like an anti-folk kind of guy, despite all the Brian Ferry jokes that were in the chat last time.
Oh my God. Yeah. Can we make fun of Australians now?
Yeah, sure. What do you got?
I just think they're silly. And
Yeah, okay.
I feel there's like an Australian humor versus American humor joke to be made here. It's like Australian people say about like Americans be like, oh, yeah, they're all a bunch of cunts. It's like what American people say about Australian people is like, yeah, well, actually, I just don't really know anything about their countries, so they're kind of silly.
That goes back to that Mad Men thing, like they think we're silly, and then like we don't think about you at all.
yeah, it's true.
Devastating. Devastating.
So are you also summoned if it's sub-DAO, or is it just DAO, DAO, DAO?
Just Dow. Yeah.
It's a
We're
shame.
talking about the
Explains a
DAO
lot.
validator
I mean,
earlier.
there's maybe like 25% chance I'll show up if it's sub DAO.
Depends on the amount of percentage you have in the wallet.
Got to check your current notifications first before you head in for that. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. It's like, I can't control how the magic works. You know, the magic words.
This is when I need all of the. I have like a long habit of trolling Jake with random characters from movies and stuff that he looks like, and for some reason I haven't put any of them into the stream, so I can't just be like, yeah, here's Buckaroo Banzai from the 8th Dimension. Fucking bonus points. If anybody remembers that film, definitely at me. We can do a watching party someday if Juno ever hits ATH again. Like,
what was the one you used last week? Because I actually looked it up and I had it in the show notes, but the show notes are limited in size, and like I didn't have enough room for it, so I had to take it out. But it was like perfect.
Oh my God.
Schultze was like impressed that you picked it up. I forget what the heck it was though.
It must have been. There's several from anime off the top of my head.
It was.
So, the obvious one is Spike from
that's what it was,
from Cowboy Bebop. Like, there is.
All right, this one is going in the notes because that was really good. Spike Spiegel.
Jake's just like, why the fuck did I show up to this after all? like nulls away.
Yeah,
now I'm just getting all the shit. Oh dear. So we're already 28 minutes in. People haven't even got like the most valuable thing of the week, which is drill tweet of the week. So hang on, let me get the book.
We also can't forget the tombstone of the week because we have some now.
Forget.
Tombstone?
Would you like to cut? Well, hang on.
Wait, who got tombstoned?
Let's do this in the correct order. Order.
Tombstone, no way!
Perfect.
There we go. Schultze, take it away. What happened?
There was an issue with the Kajira upgrade.
That was was it mainnet or testnet?
Testnet. It was testnet. Yeah, not mainnet.
That's
yeah.
bad.
So it's a little less fun / funny. But I guess there were 6 validators that were tombstone during the testnet, which is especially brutal because I think the Kajira testnet only has 25 validators. So a quarter of the validator set got nuked.
Damn.
Sweet.
Is that related to or unrelated to the alliance thing?
Is related. My understanding is what happened. So the way blocks are calculated with time with blockchains, like it's not. I don't know how to explain this just right. They did it wrong basically. So like you have built-in functions in most programming languages that it just says like time.now kind of deal. And blockchain often needs its own because it's kind of I don't really know why it's different, but it is. Maybe because it has to do more with like.
Well, I guess sometimes it will call out to an embedded library on the node, won't it? So it will be like a system level thing, and it could like if you don't have a well, yeah, just for various reasons, like it might be milliseconds out or nanoseconds out, node
Right.
to node, won't it? Even if they were all synced to a time server, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that makes
It's
sense. So
non-deterministic.
right. So
Right.
if it's not precisely the same, then everyone would have different app hashes, and that's basically what happened. And then in the recovery, um, there are tombstones.
This is one of those things you forget about when you write mainly smart contracts, is that you're even allowed to fucking do that in a blockchain context. Because like if you're used to writing smart contracts, you're not even fucking allowed to import that library
You
anyway.
can't,
So
right?
who
You
gives a
can't.
shit?
Yeah, there's no such thing as
You
time in
obviously
that
can't.
situation, right?
So it wouldn't even occur to you. You'd just be like, oh, okay, well, I would never do that anyway. And then you're just like, oh yeah, shit. You totally just if you're just writing it Go, you could just fucking import whatever you like and go crazy. You could ruin everything. It's great, or bad,
Didn't
but
this
also great.
this time.now thing seemed like it came up before? Do you guys remember? There's another network that this happened with?
I think that was Lum. I want to say it was Lum Network that it came up before because it did.
It did, right? Yeah, I remember.
Mhm.
Same type of structure where, like, I think it was, but so this one just created the tombstoning was because of that. That just created the halt, and then there was some bad directions or something, or what was the source of that?
I'm not in the testnet. I'm just hearing about it secondhand, but I'm guessing, yeah, it's instructions. I'm guessing the classic do an unsafe reset all and resync without
Right.
saving your state, which is that's the classic. That's how you tombstone.
is-
That is the one way to
that's it.
tombstone. So if someone tombstones, know that that's how they did it. Well, I guess that's not entirely true. You can also tombstone by just putting your validator key on two of them, but generally speaking, that's how you tombstone.
Yeah. And then, of course, when you do the resync and you have, depending on your remote signer of choice, you have it screaming at you, attempted double sign, as you
You
very
idiot.
slowly crunch through those rounds.
Did you find your
Good.
drill tweet?
Gotta love it. Got drill tweet of the week. There was some criticism last time of my randomness strategy, saying that I never pick from the outside edges of the book. So I
Is that the
picked
tweet?
from one of the outside edges
Oh,
of the
okay.
book, which actually means it's less random. Is it random? Is it less random? Who knows? Well, actually, it's more random, obviously. But I actually chose, but I chose the rough area of the book. Anyway,
Okay.
it's from the section marked wife.
Good.
There are some bad ones on this page. Let me tell you. I'm sorry for dragging my bullshit to the notary public, but if my Jason Bourne Rage comics aren't canonized by sundown, my wife will leave me, with will in all caps. That was the drill tweet of the week.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know about
That was indeed a tweet.
that was
One of the tweets of all time. So other validator news of the week, Whitewell launched, right? And are you guys both validating?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are.
How was that? How was the launch? It looked a bit it looked a little bit last minute, some bits of the organization.
I don't think it was. I thought it was pretty well organized. I think the structure there, what they took is they unless I'm getting it mixed up with other ones that we've done recently, but they did. They only had like 5 validators in Genesis, and there's a small inflation amount. I think it's like 4% or something like that. But they enabled inflation from Genesis, which I'm not a really big fan of, but whatever. So I think there was like 5 validators. I think, right, Schultze? I think at Genesis, and then what they did is they handpicked. They kind of pre-approved some validators to come in, and then they asked for wallet addresses. They basically provided a single whale to that address, and then they came back and they staked on top of those after they were created. So,
well, they haven't done the delegations yet, but
Yeah,
that's
they
the
have.
plan. I don't think so. Have they? Did they
Yeah,
do
yeah,
it
yeah.
like this morning?
well, maybe no, yesterday. Maybe not the whole way, but there's enough where it's not like the set's even right now, or at least it was. And then like I said, like the inflation is pretty small, so it's not like a huge amount. So it wasn't that big of a deal in terms of, it wasn't like an Evo situation where it was like everybody's auto compounding every 8 seconds or something, whatever the hell it was. And then so it launched, and then they brought validators in, and they kind of slowly did delegations or whatever types of things. But I think so it's kind of rounded out. And then I think I'm not sure when the whole marketing and airdrop and all that stuff happens. That might be a little bit later. So, but actually launching with 5, like I think we've talked about this in the past, like launching with 5 and then like having a structure around that. They kind of pre-approved who's going to be involved. They did a single token to that. They wanted to validate that was the right person who was getting that, and then they did team delegations on top of that. It's not a bad. I mean, that's a decent route. Like it started without drama, so that wasn't too bad.
So not like that dissimilar to Mars, really, then, in terms of like the Genesis set.
Mars, I think they launched. Was it 25? I don't remember. I wasn't in that set, or 50 or something.
15, I think. 15 and then expanded to 50. And I think White Whale's also a 50 val set, is it?
That sounds right. I believe so. No, maybe it's 100. No, you're right. I think it's
now.
50.
I think it might be 50. I don't even know. I don't
It's the
remember.
new hotness in the bear market, small val sets or smaller val sets.
Well, I mean, the real issue is like it's, everybody's all validators are mostly investing right now. So at 150 validators, that's a lot of investment on a chain, right? For very little returns, and it has to be a pretty high set of token price and volume and liquidity and other types of things to get that money back. So I think keeping validator sets small, and as they grow, then the chain and then the set grows. I think that makes a lot of sense, right? Because you really can't go backwards. So like some sets, like what's Chihuahua and Stargaze at 150 or something like that, right? It's tough. You can't really unwind that clock. You can't. I mean, you can pull it back, but has that ever happened? I don't think anybody's ever.
I don't think any val sets.
Can you do that? I assume you could do that, right? You could vote it back down if you want.
It's a governance change, yes.
Absolutely
You can kick a bunch out.
Like, and
Do
like,
you reckon it works though?
I thought that happened somewhere, didn't it? Maybe it was
I think
last
it would
year.
work. I don't see why it wouldn't work. Why?
Yeah.
Well,
I thought
just
I thought it
because
happened by accident sometime last
just
year.
because if you spelunk in the code base long enough, you find that there are things that you think would work that don't actually work when you try them.
Who should work?
That
You mean
is
like-
very true, but
That it's like a classic thing of like, have we actually tried that? Because if
Right.
we hadn't run that in a test net, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I would bet like 100%. Like the 100%. Like if you were like, bet your life that this works, I would be like, I'm okay, Chief. Actually, I'll not do that. I will see how this one pans out.
Well, my favorite example of that is you still get staking rewards even if you miss the block. So there's this huge circle jerk around who has the highest uptime. So long as you're signing like to not get slashed, you're good. Don't worry about it.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Right. There's no signing. There's no signing structure to the mint, right? So
There's all sorts of. I think was it the Skip guys when they were on, and they were just like, God, you dig too far down, and you don't want to see what's down there. You didn't need to know how the sausage is made, and you're like,
yeah.
Yep. Yep. There's
Yep,
a whole
yep,
bunch of things. Well, like it's like I think it's the same with anything in the space where it's like it's all kind of alpha software that's in production, really.
Mhm.
Like compared to spaceship, guidance systems code or something. There, all this stuff we're doing is completely somewhere beyond Wild West.
With that said, I have to give a shout out to the relayer softwares these days. Whenever I started Relink back in 2021, it was like you would run your relayer software, and because it was so unreliable, you often had other scripts running just to ensure that like packets were actually getting through and just all sorts of other nonsense. And it's at the point where basically if you spin up Hermes, the relayer script that we use most of the time, it just works. That's probably the biggest change I've seen in the Cosmos ecosystem is in how smooth relaying has become, both for the operators and for individuals.
It's good.
That's interesting. I guess that also kind of makes sense because I think obviously there's a bit of competition in that space because Strangelove have put a lot of love into Relay, and then obviously Informal have also done a bit more development on Hermes, but like from memory, they did that whole drive with Basecoin and all that stuff, just basically to harden the Hermes relayer and also the Rust implementation of IBC, because those were like the two of the products they wanted to do more support on. Not sure how that worked out for Hermes. Presumably it also fits into their broader product roadmap. I don't know. Somebody from Informal would have to say, but But maybe it's like a knock-on effect from all the stuff around the IBC Rust implementation or something like that as well. Like that has become better tested and better used. I don't know. Or just that the interchange's grown and more people are filing bug tickets when it goes wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be.
Might also just be figuring out how to set up channels better. Because back in the day, we would just throw all sorts of random values when we were setting up a channel. Trusting period, it could probably be 10 days, but I'm not entirely sure. Create the channel anyway. Whereas now we're like, okay, so it should be like 2/3 of the unbonding period, blah, 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 blah. So
That's who sets it up? Is that the team to decide that, like just based on the values?
more often than not, it's either me or PFC. Steak Lab often does it.
Kind of like the OG relay validators. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
Gonna take part in game of NFTs. There's 20,000 Atom in prizes. It's just
What's the price of Atom right now?
That's, I don't know, it's over $10.
I think it's
Is it?
14.
It just crossed 14.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I try not to look at the prices. It's
Jake, tell us about it. What is it?
So game of NFTs is like we've been hearing about. Oh my god! Stop it! God damn it!
Sorry. I just for folks on the podcast I threw.
We've been talking about.
Go ahead.
Been talking about energy and NFTs for a long time, and they're finally fucking here. They're finally ready, and there's basically, it's like Game of Stakes or all these other like it's like an incentivized test net. You learn how to run like you just run the relayers, you send NFTs between different chains, and there's 20,000 Atom of prizes. So like, I think validators could use some extra income at the moment, and we could certainly use some quality like validators to like test out all this stuff and try to break it. And assuming that goes well, then we have like interchain NFTs live and ready to go in the Cosmos by the end of that testnet. So just for any validators that are listening, and also for you guys, like, it's probably not that hard. Might as well get some Atom,
How is that distributed? Is it like based on just kind of random, based on some transactions, or is it like you guys have
They have like a doc and a point system. Basically, registration opened up today, so you'll be able to like register your interest. So you might as well just do that, and then like I think there's some like drafts of instructions. It's like basically just like do a bunch of tasks.
Jake, where do people register?
I tweeted about it.
All right, go check Twitter. I'll put the link in the notes too.
Yep. And feel free to also share the link. We shared it from the main like Juno account as well. Stargaze has shared it. Iris Network, I don't know what Iris Network is, but they shared it.
That's where Lavender 5 is like a huge foundation delegator, I think, right? On the Iris Network.
Oh shit.
It was really hard to like, build like the interchain NFT spec. So credit to them on that. And then the great thing is if you're already running on Juno testnet, guess what? You already we're using Juno testnet for a game of NFTs, and if you're already running like Stargaze testnet, guess what? We're using that too. So like,
fucking hell, that's awesome.
You guys are all probably like.
Yusef is just like, I think I already just won the game of NFT.
Yeah, you're making money right now.
Wait, do I need to give you an address to back the dump truck and money up to? Let's fucking go.
I want that 20,000 Atom to go to you guys.
All right. So and Cosmos is involved as well, right? Or what chains are putting in on this?
So it's actually Cosmos Hub is just paid for the entire game of NFTs, at least this first phase, which is fine by me. I would have not voted yes on this, but because I just don't think that there's a ton of value in incentivized testnet. But hey, it was voted yes.
It's cool.
Let's at least get it to like great people like yourself. And so yeah, phase 1 was paid for by the Cosmos Hub community out of the goodness of their hearts, and it's basically just an incentivized testnet. So there's going to be a second phase.
Goodness of their hearts and the degenerateness of their wallets.
There's going to be a second phase that's going to be like a more of a hackathon kind of thing that I think will be a lot more fun. But yeah, I think this first phase will be important. I think it'd be great for people like yourselves to participate. And I think at the end of it, we'll feel like very, very confident that interchain NFTs are ready for prime time. So yeah, there's other chains involved. So Iris Network, Stargaze, Juno, Osmosis, just like all the usual suspects. They all have their like testnet set up, and they're going to have either the Cosmos SDK NFT module or the ICS 721 contract deployed on their testnet for people to just, play around. And even if you don't run a validator, you can still partake, but you might need to run relayers and stuff like that in order to do the challenges.
I remember we talked about this. Like, what was it, Jake? It was like maybe at the end of the summer or something like that. We were talking about interchain NFTs. I think it was you. Whatever else. It's great that you guys are here. Must have been a lot of work to get to this point.
Do you know if these would also apply to Secret? Because Secret has their own system, more or less.
Yeah, that's a really great question. I get asked this all the time, and I think that would be a really great thing to figure out during Game of NFTs. But
I'll reach out to Asaf right now.
I think that'd be awesome. Like, I can't see a reason why it wouldn't work, but if you send them across the channel, you might not have them be secret anymore.
Yeah, I do have one huge problem with this though. On the interchain-nfts.dev site, it says open for registration, Game of NFTs (GON).
I know
that acronym.
I told them I complained about it.
That acronym is fucking taken.
That acronym's fucking taken.
You should just like rage tweet them.
Taken.
I think you should rage tweet them and just be like,
that is a bunch of bullshit.
You've trademarked GON. No one else can have it.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll be hearing from our lawyers.
They're going to participate and take all the prize money.
Okay, I could do that.
That would be the biggest.
Well, we could.
You wouldn't it? Just get all the wins.
Well, we could participate. We could take the prize money.
This is stacked team.
Or we could just get our lawyers to take all the money and then back the dump truck up to our fucking underground bunker.
Maybe that's how we win this.
Yeah. Don't fucking play by the rules.
Yeah,
that's the one thing we
goes to $1,000. That's gonna be a lot. So
fucking hell. If Atom goes to $1,000, that would be good.
Yeah, it'd probably be good actually.
It's a pretty big grant from the Atom community, isn't it? Like this is like.
Yeah, it's really sizable.
20,000 Atom is a lot for interchain NFTs.
Yeah, and
it's good.
I mean, I'm thankful.
Surprised and thankful.
If the same prop was put up on Juno, I would have been like, no. I don't think we learned that much from incentivized testnets. Like, we've already had this thing like running on testnets, so it's like, I don't know. Eventually, like, I'd rather put money towards like hackathon and people actually like fucking building with the shit versus like incentivized testnets, which I feel like don't always attract like the best quality of contributions. Like, what are your guys' thoughts on incentivized testnets? Because they used to be all the rage. Remember when every blockchain did like an incentivized testnet?
Stargaze.
I'll definitely push back. For technical incentivized testnets like this, for example, what was it? It wasn't Game of Stakes that happened.
The recent ICS one?
Yeah. That one was really helpful because nobody obviously had known what to do about it yet. And it resulted in Strangelove improving Horcrux such that it could be used kind of like cascading down. They also improved something else. But that was a great experience. And then we ultimately got paid for it, right? Granted, it wasn't much at the end of it, but it was still paid experience. And similarly, getting more relayers involved, I can't say anything but good things about that. Setting up your first relayer, unless you take someone else's complete configs, it's going to take several days probably to get it actually up and running. And so incentivizing someone to actually learn the software and get it going, I think that's fantastic.
Those are good points. And I kind of agree with you. And like, as long as the thing being tested out is like this brand new cutting edge thing,
right?
Like shared security is like actually a really great use case. Like you're basically paying to like educate people, right? Like, and sort of battle test stuff. But kind of get that. But at the same time, like I remember from like the project's perspective, if you're just launching an app chain, my hot take is that incentivized testnets are basically a huge waste of time, and they're basically worthless, and you don't get any good contributions out of them. The amount of fucking time and headache we had to waste with like the Stargaze like incentivized testnet was just like, and the worst part is we didn't really get much value out of it. Like we could have just run a couple of nodes like locally ourselves as devs and like saved so much more time. And then you have all these like kind of spam accounts and all the people that are like free money, and they're like
a fucking waste of time.
And they get mad at you, and they like just yell at you because you're not giving them their free money like fast enough. And it's like
I remember, wasn't there one person or one entity? I vaguely remember this, and just after Stargaze launch, that there was somebody that didn't submit a GenTX and had no intention of actually running a validator, and they were like, "Where are my tokens?" It's like,
yeah, just the amount of like endless complainers that we had to deal with, and like bad vibes, and meanwhile we like basically like, this would be a better question for Jorge, or like I don't recall like finding any significant bugs from that testnet.
Yeah,
like,
I just
can't remember a single one. I just remembered purely like how much of a fucking pain in the ass.
We halt there. There was a halt. There were, I think there were. Okay, maybe I'm jumbling Juno testnets here, but I remember.
Oh, we had so many halts on Juno testnets, but
I remember that. I'm pretty sure I remember in the Stargaze testnets, one of them was literally because somebody just auto compounded their way to take over all the voting power and halted. So that was like, I'm pretty sure that was Stargaze.
No, and that was totally Juno. That was a Juno testnet.
Was that definitely Juno?
Noel remembers this too. Where's Noel when we fucking need him? He got like so pissed off about it.
He's asleep.
Yeah, maybe. And there was definitely one on Stargaze where it was when there was a testnet where every node should run with Cosmovisor, and we hit the Cosmovisor version, was it 0.47 bug, where it logs out it logs out the contents. If you upload a Cosmovisor binary, it logs out the contents of the binary. I think it was something like that.
Yeah,
and then it crashes.
I do remember that.
But and like because 2/3 of the voting power were using Cosmovisor, everybody crashed and had to restart. And the chain stalled.
I still have my hot take is that like chains don't learn a lot from incentivized testnet. If you think about the overhead of like organizing the competition, cutting out all the spam like Sybil accounts, having to like assess people's scores and like add everything up and then send out all the money and then like actually do the test. Like you might as well just spend your dev time just like actually running like and testing like chain upgrades locally and like making sure documentation is up to date. And then one of the things that we found like with the Juno testnets is like, you know what, a lot of the good validators, like they're just involved. Like
doesn't matter, right?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
You actually get good validators and you cut out all the noisy ones that don't know shit about running a node. And like it's way more, it's like the Juno testnet, the amount of times we halted it was a lot, but like the people there were quality.
We learned a ton.
Like, we didn't like just attract like legions of like spammers. Like I was just always like really frustrated. I had so many people up in my DMs for like the Stargaze testnet, like just asking like the dumbest shit of like how to like edit a file on the command line. And
incentivized testnets, absolutely the wrong thing. This what I would say this is like what I'm seeing game NFTs. This is incentivized testing. That's different.
Okay.
So incentivized testing is, hey, we have something, we think it's pretty decent. This is new. I want you guys to be able to hammer the shit out of this to figure it out. Incentivized test nets, that is like, hey, we want to try this new binary, blah 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 blah. But
so
again,
basically,
like,
what you're saying is there's like 1,000 monkeys, 1,000 typewriters, and they've got the typewriters, and they're like validators. Come hit these keys.
But yeah,
my hot take is I agree with that. I think that the best way I've seen it go is whenever it's announced explicitly that it's not incentivized, and then people who actually show up and like do things, then they get like surprise incentivized. Now that's kind of gone awry in that now people they are like, oh, it's not incentivized. Well, boy, howdy, am I going to do it anyway? Because you just never know. But some of the times that I've seen, that's when it's ended up the best. But I agree, Usurper, with your take that incentivized testing is way more valuable than an incentivized test net.
At least in this like kind of idea, because I think sometimes they use incentivized test nets as an idea of like, hey, we have this binary, it's been used on 300 other chains, but we want to be able to generate some sort of like they're using it as a marketing incentive. Like we want to get people involved in it. And what it turns into, like just like Jake said, is it turns into just a token shit show, right? It just turns into just spamming this. And even other ones of like Evmos, I don't think they ever paid that out, right? They just gave up. Like at some point they just gave up and said, fuck it. Like
It's
it was
so
such
much
a mess.
fucking work to like add up all the scores and then like verify it. And then
totally
people are also like
subjective, right?
submitting like fake shit too.
Yeah, like it's a fucking nightmare. So like I think they like fuck it, like we're live and that's what it is, and we got to where we are, and which basically means like if they found value in it, like you would have said, they would have paid it, but they didn't find any value in it because. So we kind of avoid, like I don't think we kind of avoid these types of situations, like incentivized test nets, like hey, we want you to be involved in this type of thing. Like I don't want that. Like we're in this for the long haul, right? Like everybody else in this call. So like, do I need like some sort of mystery magical worthless token at the beginning just to validate my time? No. Like if we believe in the project and the team and everything else, then you're gonna put time into it, right? Like anything else.
Well, and let's add one more curl to it. Now, if you say it's incentivized testnet, you're going to have faucet spam. So that those of us that just want to be involved in the project and make sure it goes fine,
right?
We're not going to start spamming the faucet to stay in the set. And so we all get kicked out of the set because we're like, no, I've got better things to do than to just write a bot doing that. Nah.
Yeah, I mean that is also even what happens on mainnet or some networks now, where it just gets out of hand so quickly with people either auto compounding or whatever. You're just like, I mean I think probably we're even a further step back from where you guys are at, where we're just like, we don't really do test nets. We talk to projects if they want us to validate, and there's a means of us reasonably getting a spot in the set and then not dropping out fucking immediately.
Yeah.
And we'll consider it. Like, I mean, most chains in the Cosmos aren't materially all that different. So we have all the automation to make it work. We have all the setups we need. It's not, I don't need to run another test net, and I don't need to pay, we don't need to pay salary essentially in our organization to get somebody to run a test net to prove that we can run a test net. We know how to do that. And if there's some massively different piece of component, like a price feeder or an oracle or something like that, then whatever, fine, but it will run. It will run with system D. It will run with some other automation software. It will run in a Docker container. I'm pretty certain of that because they always do. Like that's how the game works, So
this is cool though. I'm glad this is happening.
I think it'll be great, and I'll stop calling it incentivized testnet. I think it is important. So.
Yeah, I think so too. I think,
and the funding is there, so like, let's go. Like, let's try to make it a thing, and I'm really excited for finally having interchain NFTs. Like, oh my god, it took so long.
I mean, I see your picture on here, and then I see you can change both incentivized test nets to incentivized testing, and you can also get rid of this parentheses GON. So I know you have the capability of doing both those changes, Jake. So
right.
I want that.
I actually don't. Do you think I would design a website like this? I have fucking pride in my work. That website looks like fucking shit.
No comment.
That person probably really tried hard, and now you're just being mean about it.
And I actually was like, kind of like went in like hot about it. I was like, all right, guys, I've got like a designer, like let's make this look really, really good. And they're like,
it's a bit.
No, we spent all this time working on it. And they were like, you could tell it's like clear.
By the way, their form doesn't work. The email form at the bottom, I just tried, definitely doesn't work. And then the register just goes through a Google form, which is fine. Right now. Google forms always work, but the email subscribe, hey, I want to be on your emailing list.
Are you on Brave or something like that?
Yeah. Don't tell me that's the reason, because that's a shit reason. Let me try Safari. Let's real time debug on Game of Nodes.
This is an incentivized testing scenario. This is the first thing you need to test
for this email form.
Yeah. So while they do that, I'm going to flick back through the comments. There have been some questions, some jokes at Jake's expense. Yep, very good. And the funky one says, what if we aren't running a validator on Juno, parentheses, yet? Can we still participate? Yep. You can
totally.
spin one up on the Uni testnet. Find out how in the Juno docs. docs.junochain.io, junonetwork.io, something like that. Show notes as always. And then join the Uni testnet. You'll be able to then put together a validator on there and then participate in the game of NFTs, which will be only referred to by its full name on this show. Rama,
the greatest and most helpful testnet of all time.
Well, the thing with Uni is it never dies, does it? It just keeps going and go. Although, to be fair, I think Astarte might have technically been.
Astarte was where
it was the real deal. That was a good test net. That fucking test net could fit so many chain holes in it. So Rama says 280k for some people to run relayers and send some TX seems excessive. Rama, this is crypto. You do take every reasonable number, multiply it by 10, then that's a reasonable number. That's how it works, man. Joking aside, 100k at most is needed, then spend some more on hackathon prizes.
Yeah.
Reasonable.
Yep.
And the and then okay, we made Rama laugh. That's the main thing. Okay, so I appreciate there's a very deep rabbit hole we could get into on funding testnets and all that sort of stuff. Maybe we will get into that, but Kerberos, right? There is a prop right now on Curb to finally fucking kill it, right? And this isn't like this is the actual implementation of Curb death.
That's right. So Wind Power CRI, is that right? From who's kind of CRI from Wind Power Stake has kind of somehow fallen into the role of taking over Kerberos. I think it might be the right way of saying it. And has done a really good job of trying to find ways. Either they've done some upgrades, they've made some changes. They've obviously done some inflation reductions and other types of things. Like they've tried to be involved to create something out of nothing, right? And I think the original person who started this, or group or whatever that was, I forget what the name was, but somebody will tell me who it was, has kind of disappeared or has completely disappeared. And so I think that individual, Geron, Geryon, I think that's what it is, right? I think Geron has disappeared. I think that group individual wallet owns like 40% of the tokens or something like that. Something that's sitting out there. It's a massive amount.
That's a lot of the tokens.
I could be wrong on the percentage, but I think it's pretty close to that. And so I think finally I think Cree said, maybe we could create something else out of this. Or just kill it, right? Because we're not gonna be able to do anything really significant with it. There's no control of the chain. It's just running, and it has no value and all those kinds of things. So we were hoping. I mean, we've been talking about this thing going to die for maybe 50 episodes, right? So it's been a while.
Yeah, and it might finally happen. But so from that, it sounds like it's still not happened. So we're still round the tower for one more episode.
The vote ends on the 16th. Right now, it will pass to kill it, with 96% saying yes, let's kill this thing. And then, like a phoenix rising, like Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, brother. There was... So I guess Chihuahua came through today, and Chihuahua said, well, maybe we could just make the Kerberos token a CW20 on Chihuahua. And move over, I guess, a structure of wallet and ownership and tokens and everything else over as a CW20 on Chihuahua. And that so far has 100% of backing to be able to do that. And say,
someone gets me to export, we'll just start 3-headed dog DAO.
So now it's a 3-headed dog as a CW20 on a 1-headed dog. So yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
So when you see the export, I will make 3-headed dog DAO. It's 1-to-1 Cerberus minus the account that has 40%.
Perfect. Do that. Put up another proposal.
And then we can just use it for I don't know.
I don't know. So I guess if this one passes, which I mean it's 22%, no quorum yet. Oh, actually no. No. Yeah, well, it's still 100% yes to be able to turn into a CW20. Oh, Cree's here. Oh, good. Welcome. So Creeper Windpower says, "Let's just please close it." So,
No,
although
it
he did do
stays
the
on
that was your
the camera.
temperature check proposal today on from the Chihuahua community, which I thought was pretty funny. So I kind of agree. It doesn't really need to exist. I think Chihuahua has its own issues and all that kind of stuff. So it might be better just to move on.
Speaking of Chihuahua, I know that Passage has been getting a lot of flack for the Chihuahua World thing, but I'm more excited about that than I should be because it looks like Mario Party but Chihuahua in the metaverse idea. I think it looks fun.
Yeah, but why haven't Passage done fucking anything on their own chain?
Wait,
That's
so
a great question.
wait, can you give some context on what do you? I'm not sure what this is.
Well, yeah. So back whenever Chihuahua was like 1 cent each or whatever, Passage was funded to build a meta world for Chihuahua at the start, right? So I think they're using Chihuahua as their test bedders, like their entry level marketing for their Passage game itself. So over the last week, they've been putting out a lot of like videos on Twitter of this metaverse where you're playing as a Chihuahua and you play against other Chihuahuas, and you're basically playing Mario Party as a Chihuahua, and that just seems like
I
so
like
much
it,
fun.
but I also like the Strange Climb game when they released all the videos of that and what's happened with that. Like,
What has happened with that?
Being uncharitable, right? I'm not a game dev, but my suspicion is that, like a lot of game engines, there's like a baby's first game with minimal code that ships kind of with the engine to let you show what you can do with it. And somebody who knows how to do assets is very good at just reskinning a couple of things and then having somebody with a first person perspective pan around a little bit on some pre-rendered assets. It's like, okay, this is a fucking deep rabbit hole. I'm not going to explain the context. We're just going to go immediately there.
no, let's go down. The
This is like back in the day, right? When you
I have,
were on
I have a couple of strange lines.
when you were on the Point Defense Systems homeworld modding community, and you were like, you saw some really fucking sick implementation of like some kind of super carrier or something that added to the lore, and you were like, that is fucking rad. That would be so cool, an expansion to base. And then nothing ever came of it. And you realized that what happened was somebody had rendered a model because they knew how to do rendering and artwork, but they had no idea how to actually implement it in the game files or indeed actually overlay the model onto the actual in-game model in code. They just knew how to make a really good 3D render. So it feels a little bit like that. And you know, I got rugged enough times in the homeworld modding community that I never really recovered. So maybe that's why I'm so jaded and bitter.
I mean, I feel like you just spoke to the entire Star Citizen community there.
Star Citizen is basically just a homeworld mod for people that want to believe, but it's just got out of control. It's like the most expensive homeworld mod in history. But
Well, and the fact that
Homeworld 3 is coming. It's going to be a real thing.
You know what? I was about to make a joke about how they've spent like $10,000 on ships before. I know probably half of you have spent $10,000 on an NFT, and you can't even fly it.
We don't talk about that. It's not. Although it does. I have a. Yeah, no, okay, I can't defend myself. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I cannot.
I'm sorry. I'm making noises now, but with no substance. Yeah, that's fair enough. As a company, we should have instead invested in EVE Online ships. That would have been probably a smarter.
EVE Online ships?
No, because those ships, but there's a whole thing, isn't there? EVE Online has this like really big problem at the center of it, which is that people invest so much time and energy in the game, and the really big capital ships are so expensive that they actually do take like thousands or tens of thousands of person hours to like produce. Like you have to have a huge economic empire to produce the largest capital ships, and yet like there is explicitly no way of gaining the in-game currency with real money, because the creators of EVE know if that was possible it would cause a whole fucking shit show, because they have an actual working functioning economy in the game. And if they introduced it to real world money, they would get closed down so fucking quick. So it would just be money laundering, all sorts of stuff. And you just look at that and you're like, wow, they literally did it too well. They made a virtual economy so good that they fear its potency. But yeah, because they had that whole thing as well, didn't they? There was that guy who was like a US diplomat. There was some guy who basically pulled off this really elaborate double cross or something like that. It was like years in the making. And then like basically laid waste to an entire like faction that had its own capital ships and stuff. And it turned out he was like a US diplomat, wasn't he? He got killed, I think, in that Benghazi siege or something. And that's how people found out who he really was. Because he just dropped out of the game one day and people put 2 and 2 together that he was this guy that got killed.
Wasn't it over something really small too? Like he was trying to sneak off and create a miner, and then one guild or group, whatever they're called, attacked him, and he was like, absolutely not, and then went way too hard.
Yeah, that kind of rings a bell. It was like some real multi-year kind of grievance, I think. But I don't know. Like Eve is one of those things that's it's like it endlessly fascinating, but boy, do I not have the time for it. I respect like fuck the people that have literally built interstellar empires in it with thousands of other anons on the internet. That is astonishing to me. But hey, I don't. But what I'm saying is, I don't think Passage is going to be that.
No,
Probably not.
probably not. I mean, I hope it is.
I'm not asking for that. I just want Mario Party.
Honestly, I really also want that Chihuahua game. It looks like a lot of fucking fun if they could make it work. And yeah,
Just build something.
But we already have Mario Party. We already have.
but now with
Smash Bros.
Chihuahuas, like that's
I feel like that must exist. That's come on. Wii Pets exist. It exists. It already exists. Is it
Okay.
materially different to Wii Pets or something like that? It's like a shit Animal Crossing. Hey, wait. I've got it. That's how you make your millions. Animal Crossing on the blockchain. Done. Already manipulative, already addictive, already micropayments.
That's what you need.
All you need to do is just like graft a Ponzi on top.
Isn't that
Millionaire.
Decentraland?
Oh man, I was looking at there's a trade body for blockchain in the United Kingdom. I was looking at it this week, and one of the least impressive things about it was they're like, check out our Decentraland, check out our metaverse hangout, and you're just like, oh wow, this ain't it, chief. Like, you guys are the ones that you join as a practicing organization to influence policy, and this is it. This is what you get access to for paying you membership fees. Okay, then. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, I guess the question though is, can you set that as your business? If you can set your address as your Decentraland metaverse business, that's something else that I might actually consider.
You just said a whole bunch of words that I'm unclear about what you're getting at, but
Like your business address. Could you set like a metaverse address as your like government business address? Because in FTX, their accountant did that. He set his address as his metaverse address.
No.
He did. I swear to God.
Like,
really?
in what meta?
Yes.
Like, what?
I don't think
metaverse
that
address?
boomers will legally recognize that.
Yeah, right.
I've got the feeling.
Meanwhile, like there's literally these services, at least in America, where you can just like buy an address to like operate your shell corporation out of, and they like receive your mail and stuff.
Oh
and it's,
yeah,
like, really
tons
legal.
of them. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
that's really standard. You just get a post office box, right?
Yeah. And then also, like, who the fuck checks their mail these days? Like, my mail is just complete junk, and I like check it every like 6 months or whatever, and then
Any
there's
subpoenas?
like 50 billion things in there. And
It's all good.
the best thing is that if I ever do get subpoenaed, I'll probably be like, I had no idea. I never checked my mail.
There you go.
I'm not sure that's a defense though.
I don't know
Not
if it is
being aware of a thing.
But it's like, can they just like reach out to me on like the internet or like?
If a sheriff doesn't show up, I think you're fine.
Can you message me on LinkedIn, please? I'd prefer that for sure.
Yeah, if you
yeah.
message me on LinkedIn, I'll
I'll
respond
give you
immediately.
my metaverse address.
I'm actually not on LinkedIn though. It sucks. It's just nonstop spam.
It's
Nothing
garbage.
good has ever come out of LinkedIn. It's so bad.
It's,
I would like
it's
LinkedIn
garbage.
if they paid to message me. Like that'd be great.
Coming soon on How Social. No,
That's not a bad idea.
How
Pay to
in
message is
a
a pretty
new
good idea.
service for business on the blockchain to connect with
Yeah, that's great.
hot engineers in your area or whatever it is LinkedIn is for these days.
I mean, people are paying on LinkedIn to message, but they're not paying you. They're paying LinkedIn.
I was actually in a really great
Yeah.
Spaces with Larry last night, and we were talking about the challenges of getting like questions answered in Cosmosm and having all the documentation and question answers in these like silos like Discord. Like we've answered a ton of questions about validators, but it's all in Discord, so that's not searchable via Google or whatever. And if you're not in the right Discord, you can't find it. So we were like talking about like doing a Cosmos Stack Overflow and kind of exploring like what a Stack Overflow might look like on something like how like where imagine you like post your question, you can maybe even attach like a little bounty to it, like someone like people answer, you can stake on the good answers.
Yeah, pick an answer. Yep.
Yeah, it's incentivizing devs to like actually like take the time and like write stuff. It's all indexable, so you can search it. Now we've solved discovery, and then if like for the person that proposes the question, like if someone gets it right, they can say, okay, you got it, and that's the green check mark. It's like just do like a crypto.
That sounds pretty sweet.
Yeah, I think it would be sick.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Actually, like a long time ago when I first met Shane, and like this was actually one of the things we were talking about is like an incentivized like Stack Overflow.
Do they incentivize the Stack Overflow incentivize or no?
No, it's just
only in reputation, which is the purest form of incentivization.
Is that it? It's just reputation.
It's just reputation. It's just
reputation
like
priceless.
You can see how much I answer on there.
Yeah, I'm not sure it actually really helps you get a job or whatever. The thing is, actually, it's probably more like by the time you have enough Stack Overflow rep that it would be in any way useful to you, you're already a mid or senior engineer, at which point your main struggle in life is trying to get out of meetings long enough to actually write any code.
Can we not hit me in the heart right now? Because
do you know what's the most devastating thing? Like the thing that we were talking about the other week, Shortsy, is that the as soon as you leave and you go work for yourself and you're like, yes, finally, never again. It's just gonna be code all day, baby. And then like after 2 years, you're like, wait, hang on, how am I the manager again? How am I in meetings again? This time I'm the only one to blame, and somehow I've managed to fuck it up. What the fuck? How am I the boss?
Man, I was just thinking about this earlier today. My second hire was literally a manager because I was like, man, I'm in too many meetings. Hey, do you want to get paid to be in meetings for me? Like that's basically how it went.
Look at me. I'm the manager now. That's the meme. That's
done,
the
bitch.
meme.
You ever seen that Chappelle? All right, I'll put that in the show notes. You ever seen that Chappelle sketch about?
I was doing the Captain
with
Phillips.
the Kinko's thing. No.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. The Kinko's one's fantastic.
I'm the manager, bitch. Yeah. I think, but the idea of micropayments, I like that subject, whether it's Stack Overflow. I thought we were talking about before the little Fiverr type of structure that Territory released. Did you see that, Jake?
Fiverr.
That was way cool.
So they're building
was.
it's ish. They're building a way to be able to put out a. If you're familiar with Fiverr, the idea is that like you're a contractor for hire, right? You can put out either a piece of a bid for work, or you could come out as a contract with a specific skill set and be able to say, hey, you can hire me for X number of dollars per hour. Territory, I'm not sure if they released it yet, but they're marketing it and they're talking about it. We were talking about it internally. That they put out a structure that on the chain to say, this is what I have. You can be able to, I can help you with X, Y, or Z, and then on chain be able to either contract for that and be able to pay for that. Right. And I'm not sure about the deliverable checking and those types of things that might be coming later. But the idea it's a nice, any of those type of situations where you might have like a independent or somebody else who wants to be able to put something out on there and be able to work globally, not worry about currency, not worry about those types of structures. Like that Stack Overflow idea is the exact same type of thing, right? Like it doesn't matter where that person is. It's a body of knowledge that I want to be able to contribute to. Someone answered this question. I want to be able to pay for that question, right? Or pay for that answer. So I was really impressed with the territory structure. Like it was a really good use case. Like it's something that is, not
Did
just
they
shuffling.
publish
Like
about
it's
it
a good
somewhere?
idea.
Or
What'd you
I
say, Jim?
know, I've talked with a couple people in the Juno community that are interested in similar ideas. So,
Yeah.
did they publish it somewhere? Is it live or
It
like
was
where?
on. It was on Twitter. I saw some
Yeah.
screenshots of it, and then I went to the site and I was like just poking around for it. I didn't create anything because but I should actually. So, but it's actually it looks like it's live or it's going to be live pretty soon.
What's the deal with territory? Like, what is this?
I don't know.
It's some former. There were people who were hanging around the Juno Discord for quite a while. I think they're all French guys, and I guess they just. Well, it's what I think it was one of the first bear market start your own chain rather than build on another chain things that happened. Probably that was my impression.
So we're in the set. What I got out of
Is it
it
open
originally
source?
was that it was very well marketed and it was a lot coming soon and those types of things and like there's a lot of hype around it and I think they do a good job of marketing, a good job of branding, which I think.
I mean, they are
is
starting to ship some stuff though, so
and then
fair
now they're
game.
shipping some stuff, right? Exactly. So I think they ship some NFT type of things, which you can see, and then we talked about this thing around before around this kind of like Fiverr idea that's coming or getting there. So they're starting to build or they're starting to round it out a little bit, which I thought was pretty good. So anyway, I mean, but I think those use cases, there's a lot of value in those use cases, right? Like even a Twitter like type of a structure where you could validate and be able to stake on really good tweets.
Something like that, yeah. So I wanted to actually, I made a joke. The joke about this is the fucking name of the episode, and it's an hour and 20 minutes in before I get around to it. But I know that there are people who work in the sector in the UK that watch the podcast, that watch the pod, listen to the pod, whatever. There is currently a consultation. God damn, I should have done this minute 3 of the podcast. Anyway, we're getting to it right at the end. There is a consultation. The Bank of England is doing a consultation on the digital pound, which is the shit posters called Britcoin, obviously. Lol, lol, lol. There are 2 different consultations in flight at the moment. Industry participants and interested parties are encouraged to submit in writing a response to the consultation by, I believe, something like the 7th of May. So you've got a little while to read the 87-page briefing document for the consultation itself. And then there's an accompanying tech paper. It's about the same length, but it's a lot of it is just repeating the same stuff, but with some technical detail. They're both separate consultations. And if you are in the UK and in the space and technical, I kind of strongly suggest that you respond to it. It's really interesting. It's not strict. Well, so there's a few things around it. Like it's not strictly a central bank. It is a central bank digital currency, but it's not necessarily a blockchain. There's lots of design constraints that they've thought about with a technology working group that potentially preclude the use of a blockchain. They have a baseline of 30,000 transactions per second as the benchmark that they need to hit.
So Cosmos is out.
What's that?
So Cosmos is out.
Yeah, so Tendermint's just fucking out of the window, totally
out.
gone. Forget about it. You're toast. Maybe Aptos hot stuff implementation could get there. I've seen that. I think we saw 10,000 a second, didn't we, in a test net there?
I think it was like more like 5 to 6, but it was pretty high. It was decent.
Yeah, but nowhere near 30. I mean, that's triple the numbers. Like, that's a really fucking big number.
Well, that's higher than Visa, right?
Way higher than Visa.
Yeah, so it has to. So there's a few things going on there. They want it to ultimately be able to fully take over from the spine in the UK in terms of like payment processing and clearance. They're also talking about this is consumer, not the because there's like a wholesale, isn't there? The wholesale commercial and there's consumer. So they actually also want to be able to use it for point of sale, like as in physical selling eventually. So they have a whole bunch of scaling requirements that I guess are based on benchmarking through people like Monzo and whatnot.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's it has to have 3 nines of uptime, but the goal is 5 nines of uptime and 30,000 transactions per second. So 10 to mint just fucking straight gone. But it's a really interesting consultation.
Yeah.
And the only other thing I thought that is interesting, I guess, is that if you're kind of like an architecturally minded person, you kind of look at the structure, they acknowledge the possibility for the need for an L2 or a ledger as part of the overall structure.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder that I think basically, because I am an IBC maxi, I think actually there's a role for IBC in what they're doing. And other people who are technically minded, go read the consultation, tweet me, Frey, you're mad. There is no use for IBC in this structure. But I think actually in their structuring of the API layer and abstraction and stuff, there probably is actually an interesting case for saying they could build out, whether or not the core stack they actually build is just Apache Kafka and fucking Cassandra. Who cares? Like there might actually be a role for an IBC light client or something like that to bridge out, from a protocol based approach or something like that. I think it's interesting reading, and I think it's also interesting to see a central bank publishing all their thinking at quite an early stage and saying, this is our direction of travel for the next 5 years, is what we're working on. What do people think? I think that's actually pretty fucking cool. And I think it's all part of a story of increased utility for all of the stuff we've been working on, talking about. And yeah, so that was kind of cool. Read all that, replied to it ourselves, would encourage other folks in the UK to do the same. Sorry, lads, I should have done this at 3 minutes in.
But as an American and reading these docs, I was pretty impressed with a couple things. One is the clarity of what the intentions are. I thought it was pretty realistic in terms of what the expectations are, what the role of that coin would be. It was not overbearing. It was kind of like we have this need. We want to be able to kind of work towards these types of set of requirements. Like, it was pretty good. It was pretty well written. Like, it wasn't like this is like we understand. Like, it was a document structured around, we understand this has a role in our future. So let's collectively figure out how this might play a role in our future. That document would never fucking come out of the U.S. It would never come out of the U.S. Like, the way it was written and the way it was structured, it would never fucking come out of this country ever, and that's pretty sad. So I'm glad that a world leader is is creating something like that.
Our central bank's also independent of the government as well. So our government literally is on fire at the moment.
No,
the whole
understood.
country's on fire. But
Understood.
then the central bank is just quietly in the corner with a bunch of nerds and pocket protectors going like, oh, so what about this digital currency?
But one thing our government does is, like, they don't like to be beaten in those types of things. So, like, if somebody else leads with this and they have something going, then I think there will be a desire to either be first or to be able to try to improve on the idea in some sort of way, maybe. And so hopefully it just moves this conversation forward, because this conversation, I think, needs to happen, right? Like, it has there. I think somebody in this in our kind of internal chat talked the idea around people view the stable as being safe, like a stable coin is a safe coin, and I think that is a universally agreed idea. I think anybody who came into this when the idea around a stable coin or USDC or USDT or something else, I think people will kind of naturally think, oh, this is a less risky type structure, and I have the ability to say, oh, I can move this back and forth. I can put this in this type of stable, and I'm safe in doing that. And that, I think, is a universally agreed thing. Whether that's right or wrong, I think that is universally agreed upon. And